the water barely reaching your ankles, when suddenly the mud beneath you erupts in a violent explosion. Massive claws, larger than baseball bats, emerge from the depths, followed by a segmented, armored body stretching nearly 8 feet in length. Your mind struggles to process what you're seeing. This isn't some prehistoric crocodile or ancient shark. This is something far more terrifying, something that seems ripped from your darkest nightmares. You're face to face with a creature that once ruled the ancient waters of our planet with absolute dominion for over 250 million years. The Eurypterid, better known as the giant sea scorpion. But here's the thing that will make your skin crawl. This encounter isn't happening in some distant alien world. This is Earth, our Earth. The same planet you walk on every day, the same ground beneath your feet once trembled under the massive claws of these aquatic titans. 400 million years ago, when the continents were arranged in completely different configurations and the very air you breathe didn't exist in its current form, these creatures were the undisputed apex predators of every aquatic environment they inhabited. Let me paint you a picture of just how massive these beasts truly were. The largest specimen ever discovered, Jaekelopterus rhenaniae, measured an astounding 8.2 feet from head to tail. That's taller than most NBA players lying down. But size alone doesn't capture the true horror of these creatures. Imagine an animal built like a living tank, with a segmented body covered in chitinous armor that could deflect the attacks of any other creature of its time. Its body was perfectly designed for one purpose: killing. The front of this nightmare creature was dominated by 2 enormous appendages that weren't quite arms, weren't quite claws, but something far more terrifying. These chelicerae, as scientists call them, were like giant scissors crossed with medieval war hammers. They could grasp, crush, tear, and impale with devastating efficiency. Fossil evidence shows these weapons were covered in sharp spines and serrated edges that could slice through the toughest shells and carapaces of their prey. When these giants struck, there was no escape, no second chances, no mercy. Their 8 powerful legs weren't just for walking. They were precision instruments for underwater navigation. Each leg was paddle-shaped and muscular, allowing these predators to glide through the water with surprising grace and speed. They could remain motionless for hours, buried in the muddy bottom of prehistoric swamps, before exploding into action with lightning-fast reflexes that would put modern predators to shame. The element of surprise was their greatest weapon, and they wielded it with deadly precision. What makes these creatures even more fascinating and terrifying is their incredible sensory apparatus. Preserved fossils have revealed compound eyes that were remarkably sophisticated, containing hundreds of individual lenses that could detect the slightest movement in murky water. These weren't just simple light detectors, they were complex visual systems that could track prey, identify threats, and navigate through the complex underwater landscapes of Paleozoic swamps and estuaries. Some species even had simple eyes on the top of their heads, giving them nearly 360-degree vision. Nothing could approach these predators without being detected. But perhaps the most chilling aspect of these creatures was their versatility. While we call them sea scorpions, they weren't confined to the ocean. As the early continents began to develop complex coastal ecosystems, these adaptable hunters moved into brackish waters, freshwater lakes, and the shallow, nutrient-rich swamps that dominated much of the early landscape. They were equally at home in saltwater and freshwater, making them the ultimate aquatic predators of their era. The prehistoric swamps where many of these giants lived were unlike anything we see today. Picture vast wetlands stretching for hundreds of miles, filled with primitive plants and early trees that were just beginning to colonize the land. The water was warm, oxygen-rich, and teeming with life. Trilobites scuttling across the bottom, early fish swimming in schools, and countless other marine creatures going about their daily business, completely unaware that death lurked in the shadows below. These swamps were perfect hunting grounds for the giant scorpions. The shallow water provided ideal ambush opportunities, while the muddy bottom offered perfect camouflage for creatures that could remain motionless for hours. When an unsuspecting fish, trilobite, or other prey animal came within range, the attack was swift and brutal. The massive claws would erupt from the sediment, seize the victim, and crush it with bone-crushing force. There was no struggling, no escape, just instant death, followed by methodical consumption. What's truly remarkable is the longevity of these creatures' reign. For over 250 million years, a span of time so vast it's almost incomprehensible, these giants dominated every aquatic ecosystem they inhabited. To put this in perspective, dinosaurs ruled the Earth for about 165 million years, and modern humans have existed for only about 300,000 years. The Eurypterids' dominance lasted longer than any other group of predators in Earth's history. During their incredible reign, they witnessed and survived multiple mass extinction events that wiped out countless other species. They adapted to changing climates, evolving continents, and shifting ocean chemistry. Some species developed specialized feeding mechanisms, others became even larger and more powerful, while still others adapted to new environments as the Earth's landscape continued to evolve. The diversity among these creatures was staggering. While the giants like Jacalopterus capture our imagination, there were dozens of other species, each perfectly adapted to their specific ecological niche. Some were sleek and fast, built for pursuing prey in open water. Others were heavily armored tank-like creatures designed for crushing heavily protected prey. Still others developed specialized appendages for filter feeding or for hunting in very specific environments, but even the mightiest predators are not immune to the forces of extinction. The end came during the Great Dying, the Permian-Triassic extinction event that occurred approximately 252 million years ago. This wasn't just any extinction, it was the most severe extinction event in Earth's history, wiping out an estimated 96% of all marine species and 70% of terrestrial vertebrates. The cause was likely a combination of massive volcanic eruptions, climate change, ocean acidification, and other environmental catastrophes that even these incredibly adaptable predators couldn't survive. The extinction of the giant sea scorpions marked the end of an era in Earth's history. For the first time in hundreds of millions of years, the waters of our planet were free from these apex predators. It opened up ecological niches that would eventually be filled by other creatures. Early marine reptiles, sharks, and eventually the marine mammals we know today. Yet their legacy lives on in ways that might surprise you. Every time you encounter a modern scorpion, spider, or horseshoe crab, you're looking at distant relatives of these ancient giants. The basic body plan that made the Eurypterids so successful: segmented bodies, jointed legs, compound eyes, and powerful appendages continues to thrive in their modern descendants, albeit in much smaller packages. Recent fossil discoveries continue to reveal new secrets about these incredible creatures. In 2015, scientists discovered fossilized Eurypterid tracks in Scotland, providing the first direct evidence of how these creatures moved and behaved. The tracks showed that they could walk on land for short periods, suggesting they may have been even more versatile than previously thought. Other discoveries have revealed details about their reproduction, their growth patterns, and their complex social behaviors. Perhaps most intriguingly, some scientists speculate that if the Great Dying hadn't occurred, these creatures might have continued to evolve and adapt. Could they have developed even more sophisticated hunting strategies? Might they have grown even larger? Could they have eventually transitioned to a more terrestrial lifestyle? We'll never know, but the possibilities are both fascinating and terrifying to contemplate. Today, when you visit a modern swamp or wetland, take a moment to imagine what those same waters looked like 400 million years ago. Picture the murky depths hiding creatures that would dwarf any predator alive today. Remember that the peaceful pond or marsh you're observing was once the domain of animals so perfectly adapted for killing that they ruled unchallenged for longer than any other predator group in Earth's history.